So, here you are.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Two years ago, I suffered a small accident. While I was in the mountain with a couple of my friends, I broke my glasses. Actually, I didn't break my glasses, the entire glasses. I broke only one lens, the left one. And because I was in the mountains, didn't have any chance to fix it. So I had to stay with only one lens on my face for a couple of days. I was looking like a cyborg, and I was the target of a lot of jokes from my friends, as you can imagine. When I turned back home, I went to a technician to fix my glasses. And I asked him to put a similar lens with the other one, but with different diopter. And he did it. And I was very happy. Now, after 1 month, while I was walking in the park with my wife, she was looking at me and she said, "Wow, Dan, you broke your glasses again." And I said, "No, no way. I didn't. Oh, one lens is missing. This time is the right one." Then I said, "No, no, no, I have both lenses." And when I looked at my glasses, they were looking like this. Because when I changed that lens, they put it a photochromatic lens. And where is a very big sun outside, intense light, it becomes darker. It took 1 month to realize this. And it was a big surprise for me. Once, because nobody told me that till that moment, because they were thinking that I have a medical problem and maybe this is the reason why I have a different lens on one eye. So they were thinking that this is okay. On the other hand, my wife was thinking that the other lens was broken. So the wrong one was considered to be good lens, and the other one is not so good. And the third thing was that I didn't realize this. So I wear my glasses every day of 1 month without realizing that I have different lenses on my face. And that's because it's very difficult to see things when you are too close to them. You have to step back a little bit and to look at these things to realize that it's something strange there. Now, this is happening most of the time with Agile teams. Some Agile teams don't know what is going wrong with their process, with their project. Because they are inside their team. They are looking to those things, to those processes, to those practices from inside the team. And they are not capable to see the wrong things. Somebody which is outside the team is much easier detect these kind of things. Now, I was telling you during the talk show that I'm also a professor and I'm teaching Agile methodologies to computer science students in my hometown, the university. And because this course is a master program, most of my students are already employed. They are already working in some Agile teams, in some, not necessarily Agile, but in some software development companies. And sometimes I'm talking with them and I'm asking them, how do you feel? How are you working? Are you satisfied with your job? Are you satisfied with the way of working there? And let's say 95, 98% of those students are not satisfied. Some of them because they are not doing Agile, and the others because they are not doing Agile right. They are thinking that what they are doing there in their teams is not the pure Agile. It's not the Agile that has to be, as it is written in the books. And this is pretty strange because they are very satisfied with the philosophy, they are very satisfied with the principles and the values of Agile, but they are not satisfied with the way of working in Agile teams. And there was a question I put to myself, why actually Agile works? Because, you know, if there is such a high percentage of people who are working in Agile teams and they are not very satisfied about how Agile is working in their teams, why actually Agile works? And when we have a question, most of the time we are going to Google. And I'm trying to find some answers there. But I didn't find proper answers because I found materials, a lot of materials, tons of materials about two topics. About how does Agile work and why Agile doesn't work. The latest group is bigger and bigger lately. So just a few things about why Agile should work. So I said, okay, Google is not okay. Let's go to the roots. Let's go to Agile Values. Maybe I will find the answer there. But, you know, I was thinking to have an answer about why Agile is appropriate for a development team. Why a developer, why a QA, a tester, should be happy working in an Agile environment. And almost all these values have as a target the customer. Why a customer should be happy if the development team is working in an Agile way. Because, you know, here you have customer collaboration over contract negotiation, so the focus is on the customer. Working software over comprehensive documentation, so working software for the customer to see the results. Again, responding to change, when customers change his mind, to have a fast response to his or her wishes, and so on. So not so many things about why a developer or a member of a team, of a software project team, should be happy to work in Agile. And I went back and I was thinking to something is happening. I hope the Windows is not updating right now. It is not responding. It just crashed. Just let me start it again. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we are back. So we are back to the same question, why actually Agile works. And I started to compare it with the classical methodologies, the classical methods, with the project management classical methods, like waterfall. Because every time when we are talking about Agile, we are talking about the main differences between Agile and the waterfall processes, or those who are similar with waterfall. And my answer here, my conclusion here, is that in waterfall you must follow a very rigid process. If something is going wrong in your project, it's your fault because you didn't follow the process. The process seems to be perfect, but the people who are following the process are not so okay. They are doing something wrong, so they have to change themselves. Comparing to this, in Agile methodologies, we have another approach. Agile adapts its processes to human nature. And I will try to explain you why I reached this conclusion, giving you 5 examples about time management, complexity, procrastination, evolutionary approach, and estimation. Let's talk a little bit about time management. I think almost all of you heard about Pareto Principle, 80-20 principle. What that means? That means that when you have to do something, 80% of the time you are working let's say, in your comfort zone. You are in your comfort zone. After 80% of the time passed, you realize that you cannot finish your job. And that point is a crisis point. And starting that moment, you will spend a lot of effort in doing what you have to do. When you have something to do in 3 months or in 6 months, this effort is huge here. And it's a big nightmare for every person which is part of the team. Now, what Agile methodologies are doing, because they are iterative processes, they are saying, okay, we have iterations, doesn't matter if it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, but because we have these iterations, even if we are behaving in the same way, because it seems that this Pareto principle is in our nature, that effort we are spending at the end of each iteration is lower. So it's better for us as human beings. It's not like in the waterfall process when they are saying, okay, this happened because you didn't estimate right. This happened because you didn't work as you had to work. It's your fault. In Agile, it's not like that. It's not your fault. This is your way of doing things. Let's think to a process to make your life a little bit better. So having these iterations and working in these iterations are making our lives better when we are working in an Agile environment. Now, a little bit about complexity. Now, the problem here is that we, as humans, love complex things. We are fascinated about complex things. We are, let's say, consider things which are not so complex being boring. And this is a big danger most of the time when we are working on software projects. I will give you a quote which I love most from C.R. Hall, which says, you can do software design in 2 approaches. You can approach a software design in 2 ways. First way is to do it so simple that it is obviously that there are no deficiencies there. Or you can do it so complex that there are no obvious deficiencies. The first approach is far much harder to achieve. It's much harder to do. Now, let me give you an example to prove that complexity seduces us. And I will tell you something about an experiment did by a Spanish scientist called Bavelas. What he did, he put one person in front of a computer, in front of a screen, and there were 100 pictures of human cells displayed on the screen. And that person who didn't have a medical background has to decide if that cell, human cell, is a cell with cancer or is a healthy cell, with trial and error. So he had just 2 buttons to say, I think this cell has cancer, or I think this cell is healthy. And there was a response from the system. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're not. No, you're not. And at the end of this process, the percentage of good answers was 80. So 80% of good answers without having a medical knowledge. Just because seeing those pictures and having those answers from the system, you found an algorithm to differentiate those cells, healthy cells by cells with cancer. Now, Bavelas did this experiment with another subject, and for that subject, the answers were random answers. So they were not correct answers from the system. They were random. And in the first case, as I said, it was a 80% success rate. In the second one, because he received random answers, 50%. What happened after that? Those 2 persons talked to each other about their experience during this experiment. And the first guy had a very simple and concrete explanations. Very, very simple algorithm to decide which cell has cancer and which not. The other one has a very subtle and complex explanation. Now, the problem was that the first person was seduced about this explanation. He was thinking, maybe I was stupid. I'm not right. He should be right. His explanation is more complex. Mine is too simple. It's too simple to be true. And he was influenced by the explanation of the other person. So after that, when they did the same experiment again, the first person had a 55% rate of success. Just because he thought he was not right, because the other explanation was more complex. And we are doing this on a daily basis, isn't it? If somebody is talking about a lot of things we don't know about them, we are thinking, oh, this is a smart guy. If you are going to your development team and you are telling them to develop, to implement a very simple feature, most of the time there is somebody who is saying, let's do a framework for this. Let's do a framework which will generate all the features which are related with this one. So we are fascinated about complex things. And this is not very good. And there is another quote I love from Stefan Rook, which says, complex solutions are wrong, even if they are correct. Complex solutions are wrong, even if they are correct. Okay, another example, estimations. Now, even if we like or not, the development process is a creative process. That means that we cannot, if we are choosing two developers, even if they have similar experiences, they will not finish a feature, the development of a feature or the development of a task at the same time. And they will not estimate those tasks and those features in the same time. And this is problematic mainly when one of the persons from our team left the team and leaves the team, and we have to replace that person with another one, which will have, of course, another estimation. Another problem is when we are talking about very complex things in our projects, like design or doing an architecture. I will give you an example. Let's suppose that we have an architect in our team, and we are asking him, look, please do the design of this system. How much time do you need? And he is saying, I need 4 weeks. Okay, perfect. After 1 week, we are asking him again, which is the status? Okay, 25% finished, ready. Okay, perfect. After another week, he's saying 50% ready. After another week, 75%. After another week, 90%. After another week, 95%. And after another week, maybe 99%. What's happening? The idea is that he doesn't know, actually, after 1 week, after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, which is the status, because he doesn't know that he has to design 100 classes or 100 database tables, and he already designed 25, so 25% of his design is ready. He's just guessing. He's thinking like this. I said 4 weeks, 1 week passed, so it's 25% finished. So we cannot rely on his estimations. The idea is to split, to break these systems, which are very large, in modules, which are easier to estimate and to track. And another example related to estimations. This is a very nice example. There are 7 lines in C language about translating Celsius degrees in Fahrenheit degrees. And the question was, how many declarations we have here? And the question was, they put this question to 44 experts. I don't know what experts means in this case. Maybe, let's say, developers with big experience, more than 4 or 5, I don't know, years in development in C language. And what they received was answers between 1 and 9. It was the full range. All the values, 1, 2, 3, 4, till 9. And the idea here is that it doesn't matter which is the correct answer. The problem here is that if for a very simple fragment of code, for a very simple question, some experts in development cannot agree to only one answer, that means that it is almost impossible to estimate the complexity of a system which has thousands or millions of lines of codes, and we cannot answer to much complex questions regarding that code. Now, what is happening in Agile, one thing which is very good, for instance, and which help us, is that the idea is like this. Okay, every time when we are doing an estimation, you are wrong. Because a lot of things, even if you have a lot of experience, your estimation is not perfect. Never the estimation will be perfect. And they are saying, okay, in this case, if anyway the error is big in the estimations, usually in software projects, why to use minutes, hours, days, and so on? Why to use so many so many intervals to estimate our work? Why not to use a much simpler system, like, I don't know, Fibonacci numbers? Let's take 10 numbers and let's call them complexity points, and let's see and compare the features, the tasks, with having only those things. So we have a smaller set of values to estimate our work. Okay, there are errors in our estimation. That's cool, no problem. Anyway, there are errors. Why to stay and to think more and to try to estimate in hours or days? And the other thing is that the estimation is not done alone right now. In most of Agile methodologies, the estimation is done by the team, together, talking to each other. So if there are big differences between the estimation of two persons, we can balance these estimations after talking between the members of the team. Now, I will go faster through the other things. This is the evolutionary approach. So when you have to develop a product, you can choose one of these two approaches. The first approach is plan-driven approach, when you know very well which is the final project, how the final product, will look like. In this case, you can split everything in modules, and you can say, okay, in the first part, I will do these modules, after that those modules, and finish. Now, the other approach, the evolutionary approach, says our client doesn't have any clue how the final product will look like. So in this case, they will do a very simple specification. Based on the specification, we are doing something, and we are waiting for our client feedback. And he said, okay, I don't like that hand there, just change the sketch. And we are changing it. And after that, we are putting some colors. No, I don't want her blonde. Just change the color of her hair. And we are changing the color of the hair. And step by step, we are going and we are obtaining a product with which our final client is satisfied. Even he didn't know how that product should look like. And the idea is that most of the software projects are looking like this one. I didn't meet, in my experience in all those 20 years, a client who knows perfectly what he wants to obtain. They cannot explain us in all details about that. So, for instance, this is a picture with one release. Maybe this release was after a couple of iterations. And now we can see the other parts of the system, and we can say, maybe this is not good. And you can change very easily in this moment, the picture, step by step. And the last one is about procrastination. And again, procrastination is in our DNA. And what Agile says most of the time is that to make decisions at the last responsible moment. to make decision at that moment when the cost of not taking the decision is bigger than the cost of taking the decision. So in that moment, you have to take that decision. In the last time. So don't take a decision on the architecture, don't take a decision on a design of one product at the very beginning of that product. Just wait till the moment when you have to take that decision, because otherwise you can be wrong. Now, these are just 5 examples. There are a lot of other examples, like, I don't know, user stories. We just had a talk about storytelling. We love to hear stories. Stand-up meetings or retrospective meetings, because we used to learn from our mistakes, so that's why retrospective meetings are very usual. Now, let me tell you another story. A friend of mine had a kid, and he used to do a bath with the kid every evening. And usually, before the bath, the kid loved to play with the toys in water for 10 or 15 minutes. He left the kid there in the bathroom, and he was going to the kitchen. And suddenly, he heard the kid screaming, "Make it warmer, make the water warmer." And at the moment, he jumped and was going to the bathroom, thinking that, okay, the water was too cold. He checked the water, and it was hot, actually. But he was thinking maybe because the kid stayed a lot in the bathroom with that hot water, now he felt that it is cold. So he made the water warmer. That moment, the kid screamed again, "No, no, no, make it warmer, make it warmer." And at that moment, that guy realized that the kid was thinking to the warm state as a comfort state. And for him, to make it warmer meant to transform the hot water in warm water. But we are not doing like this in our real life. We are thinking on the other side. We usually, when somebody tells us, make it warmer, we are just make the water hotter and hotter. And having this example, I was thinking to Agile, because as I said in the beginning, most of the time Agile methodologies are compared with waterfall methodology or classical methodologies. And I realized that it's not like that. Actually, Agile is here. This is the good thing. And we have classical methodologies, which are very focused on processes, and here we have chaos. And when we are saying be more agile, this doesn't necessarily mean that you are here and you have to be more agile. Sometimes maybe you are here, and be more agile is to add more processes into your work, to add more processes to be followed by your project team. And this is another picture I saw on the internet, which somehow means the same thing. And I just classified the materials I found on Google, on the internet, when I tried to find the answer to the question, why Agile works. Now, I found that there is another human behavior which is not handled by Agile methodologies. And this is our fascination for patterns, for best practices. We are looking most of the time for best practices. And this happens because our brain, usually, when we have to think, our brain consumes 20% of our energy. So in order to decrease this consumption, our brain will try to find shortcuts. And we are trying to find, every time, some shortcuts, like patterns or like best practices. And unfortunately, this is not working in an Agile environment. This is not working usually in any project, mainly in software projects which are so dynamic. And I will give you a reason. We are usually see the projects, software project, let's say, like a chess game. We know the roles, we know the rules, we know everything. We have the process. And everything should be clear. And all books about agile methodologies are talking about this ideal situation. In reality, it's not like this. In reality, you have more rooks and less bishops. In reality, you don't have so many pawns as you need. And on the other side, your horse is not jumping as high as you used to jump before. So you have a lot of problems. You have to train the rooks to become bishops. You have to hire pawns. You have to motivate your horse. But you cannot find some practices, some processes which are specific for your situation. And if you are finding them on the hard way, on your next project, the context will be completely different. So you have to start again. So you found a piece of paper on the chairs. Even you don't have a pen. Just let's try to do this exercise. You have 20 seconds to try to find as many numbers as possible, starting from 1, 2, 3, and so on, and to see how many numbers you can find in 20 seconds. I will help you. 1 is here, 2 is there, 3 is there, 4 is there. Now, let's start. Two seconds. Okay, stop. Who found 10? Cool. 15? 15, 2 hands. 16? 17? 18 is the world record. In all the experiments I did, 18 was the best. Congratulations. So 16. Very good. Now, you had only 20 seconds. Let's suppose that you didn't have 20 seconds. You have more time. And you are continuing to search for those numbers. Suddenly you are realizing that all even numbers are in one side of your paper and all odd numbers are on the other side. And beginning with this moment, your search, the speed of the search, is better. After another period of time, you will see that each fourth number is in the same quadrant. 1 is here, 2 is here, 3 is here, 4 is here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on. And this is normal, because you are trying to do something, and after a period of time, because you have experience, you are finding some shortcuts, you are finding some patterns, and you are doing your job better and better. Now, the problem is that if we are giving you another piece of paper with another matrix, what you will do? You will try to see if it follows the same pattern. And you are seeing that it doesn't follow that pattern. The second thing you will do, you will try to find the pattern. Now you think, I know that there is a pattern. Which is the pattern? And you are trying to find it. And after another couple of seconds, you are realizing that you are not finding any number in those 20 seconds. You are trying to start from 1, to look for 1, for 2, and you are finding only 5 or 6 numbers in those 20 seconds. So this is what happens when you are trying to apply best practices in a new project. Usually you are not doing this. You are not thinking, is it appropriate to use this best practice in my project? What we are doing, we are just applying it because it worked in the previous project. But every time a new project has a new context. So it's something different. So most of the time, the best practices we used to use in the previous project will not help us. Most of the time, they will harm our teamwork. I will give you another example. Maybe you know this joke. Do you know what is this? This is how a sober and a drunk driver drives the car in UK. Now, in Romania, it's a little bit different because it's another context. But look, they are using the same tools. They learned to drive a car in the same way. They are looking at the same signs on the streets. But their driving style is different because the context is different. If you are trying to drive in Romania, as you are doing in UK, you will crash your car. This is the best thing that could happen, just to crash your car. And okay, what is happening in what happens till the first time Agile was mentioned? So let's suppose that this big golden star is Agile, the Agile concept. And these are the 4 Agile values from Agile Manifesto. And everything was perfect, but most of the people asked, okay, and what we can do now? We know the values, they are very good, that everything is cool. Give us more things. And the 12 principles came. Okay, these are principles. Give us something more practical. And a lot of practices appeared. Many practices. And they were grouped together. And we are saying these practices are part of Kanban methodology. These are part of Scrum methodology. These are part of extreme programming methodology. As you can see, there are a lot of practices which are common to many methodologies. On the other hand, when we are working in a specific organization, that organization has its own processes, its own habits, its own culture. And here is usually what we are saying, the way we are doing Agile in our company. This is the way we are doing Agile in our company. These are some practices, good practices we found that are useful for everybody, and this is our way of working. And this is, again, normal, to go from this to this. Now, the main problem is that we remain here. And we are focused on doing Agile, and we are not focused on being Agile. We are going and trying to find again and again new processes, new best practices for our environment, instead of thinking that we should be more Agile and ask ourselves if those best practices fit for our project. And this is what happens if we are not doing this. No? So we know that there is a best practice when you are turning a page to lick your finger. But, you know, the work on project is going pretty well. You just don't realize that licking your finger doesn't help you. But you are doing it because all the others who are turning pages are doing this. So you are doing the same in your project. So, as I said, when I started to look on the internet, trying to answer my own question, what I found there was about doing Agile. But I think that the answer of having success in our Agile teams is to be Agile in order to benefit from all those things which are best fitted for our behavior. And the last thing I want to tell you, it's another quote, another saying, which I found very useful, and this is this one. Yesterday's best practice is tomorrow's anti-pattern. So every time when you are thinking to implement a new best practice in your team, check carefully your glasses. Thank you.
Does everyone has questions for our speaker?
So my question, what we should do with our previous experience then?
Yeah, it's the same what Dave said in the morning. With that consultant, we said, okay, this worked for 3 previous project teams. Just implement it. It doesn't mean that if it works with the other teams, it will work with this team. You have to start with why. Why should I implement this one? And I found a very interesting concept in another conference in Vienna. It was MVP, from minimum viable process. So you do not implement Scrum, do not implement Kanban, do not implement extreme programming, just to look to those practices and to choose only those who fit your needs, and to do your own methodology, let's say, for that project team, and for that client at that moment. That's interesting. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a small gift from Agile.
Thank you.
And don't forget to leave feedback. You can leave feedback in our website and our app. So we will see in the next talk.